The alien fleet moved past Mars like a slow-moving storm cloud. 48 hours had passed since their arrival, and Supreme Commander Velthak was pleased with how things were going. The humans were acting exactly as expected. On his viewing screen, he could see the pathetic attempts at defense that Earth was making. Their primitive spaceships were running away from his fleet. Their military bases were powering down their weapons. It looked like the humans had already given up hope. "Sir," reported Commander Zixtar, "we're detecting several human vessels fleeing toward their moon. Should we destroy them?" Velthak waved a dismissive hand. "Let them run. When we control their planet, we'll hunt down the survivors later. Running away just proves how weak they are." What Velthak didn't know was that Captain Tae-Min Lee was piloting one of those fleeing ships. The EDS Aegis was indeed heading toward the moon, but not because Lee was running away. He was moving into position for the counterattack that would begin in 24 hours. "Base Command, this is Aegis," Lee spoke into his radio. "We're almost in position behind Luna. The aliens are tracking us exactly as planned. Deep underground on Earth." Admiral Dae-Ho Kim smiled as he received the report. "Excellent work, Captain. How do they look from your position?" "Like they own the galaxy, sir," Lee replied. "Their ships are spread out in a standard conquest formation. No defensive measures at all. They really think this is going to be easy." "Good," Dae-Ho said. "The more confident they are, the bigger the shock will be." Across the solar system, humanity's real defenses were coming online, but they were hidden so well that the alien scanners couldn't detect them. What looked like ordinary civilian structures were actually the most advanced weapons ever built. On Mars, Sorayun was walking through what appeared to be a simple mining tunnel. The walls were red rock, carved out by mining equipment over the past 20 years. But behind those walls were factories that had been building warships non-stop for 2 decades. "How many ships are ready?" she asked her assistant, a young engineer named Bumsu. "All of them, ma'am," Bumsu replied. 2,000 battlecruisers fully armed and ready to launch. The aliens have no idea we've built an entire fleet inside this planet." Sora nodded. The Mars colony had always been humanity's biggest secret. While the aliens saw a small mining operation, the reality was that Mars had become the largest military base in human history. The entire planet was hollow, filled with weapons, ships, and soldiers. Back on Earth, Jin Woo-song was making final checks on Project Prometheus. He stood in a massive underground chamber that stretched for miles beneath the Antarctic ice. Above his head, weapons the size of skyscrapers pointed toward space through hidden openings in the ice. "Power levels are at 100%, reported his assistant, Kyung-soo. "All targeting systems are online. We can fire at any time." "How many shots do we have?" Jinwoo asked. "Enough to destroy their entire fleet twice over," Kyung-soo replied with a grin. "These quantum cannons are going to rewrite the laws of physics." Jinwoo looked up at the massive weapons. Each one could punch a hole through a moon. The aliens had no idea that beneath Earth's peaceful-looking surface, humanity had built the most powerful artillery system in galactic history. Dr. Yoon-ji Nam was in her laboratory in Seoul, putting the finishing touches on her quantum weapons network. To anyone looking from space, Seoul appeared to be a normal city with ordinary power lines running beneath the streets. The alien scanners detected nothing unusual. But those power lines were actually a weapon system that could tear apart matter at the atomic level. The entire city of Seoul was basically one giant gun disguised as civilian infrastructure. "Final test complete," Yoonji announced to her team. "All quantum nodes are synchronized. When we fire, the beam will be perfectly coherent across the entire network." Her assistant, Young-ho, looked worried. "Are we sure this won't damage the city above us?" Yoonji smiled. "The energy will be directed straight up into space. The people walking on the streets above us won't even feel a breeze. But any alien ship caught in the beam will simply stop existing." On the moon, Commander Hyun-Soo-oh was making his own final preparations. For 30 years, the lunar mining base had been building what looked like ordinary mining equipment. Giant drilling machines, ore processors, and transport systems covered the moon's far side. But every piece of mining equipment was actually a weapon. The drill rigs were really missile launchers. The ore processors were really ammunition factories. The transport systems were really targeting computers. "Sir," reported his communications officer Sung Min, "Earth Command wants to know if we're ready." "Tell them we've been ready for 30 years, Hyun Soo replied. "When those alien ships come into range, they're going to learn why you should never underestimate a mining operation." The most amazing part of humanity's deception was how normal everything looked. The alien scanners were extremely advanced, but they were designed to detect military equipment. They couldn't recognize weapons that were disguised as civilian infrastructure. To the aliens, Earth looked like it had basic nuclear weapons, primitive spaceships, and some simple defensive systems. They had no idea that every major city on Earth was actually a hidden fortress. Every power plant was actually a weapons facility. Every communications tower was actually a targeting system. As the alien fleet approached Earth, their confidence grew even stronger. More human ships appeared to be fleeing. More military bases seemed to be shutting down. The planet looked like it was preparing to surrender. On the command ship, Velthak was already planning his victory celebration. "How long until we reach optimal bombardment position?" he asked. 18 hours, sir," replied his navigation officer. "Perfect," Velthak said. "Begin charging the primary weapons. I want to give these humans a demonstration of our power. Maybe, if we destroy one of their cities, the rest will surrender even faster." What Velthak didn't realize was that humanity was also 18 hours away from optimal firing position. Every hidden weapon system was now fully charged and ready. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment were at their battle stations. The trap was set. In the asteroid belt, Jihaye Ryu was floating inside what looked like an ordinary space rock. But this asteroid had been hollowed out and filled with weapons 20 years ago. It was one of hundreds of similar installations scattered throughout the solar system. "All asteroid platforms report ready," she announced over the secure communication channel. "We have firing solutions on every alien ship in the fleet." From Earth, Admiral Dae-ho Kim's voice crackled back through the radio. "Outstanding work, Commander. Remember, wait for my signal. We want to hit them all at the same time." Ji-hai smiled inside her helmet. The aliens had no idea that the asteroid belt was actually humanity's outer defense line. What looked like empty space and floating rocks was really a massive weapons platform that surrounded the entire solar system. Director Sung-woo Park was coordinating communications from his hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. Quantum communication arrays allowed instant contact between Earth, Mars, the Moon, and the asteroid belt. When the battle began, humanity would fight as one unified force across the entire solar system. "All stations report ready," Sung-woo announced to Admiral Dae-ho Kim. "Every weapon system is online. Every ship is in position. Every soldier knows their job." Dae-ho nodded. "Good. Now we wait for them to get close enough." The alien fleet continued its approach, completely unaware that they were flying into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. Every human installation looked harmless to their scanners. Every weapon looked like civilian equipment. Every soldier looked like an ordinary citizen. Velquothak stood on his command deck admiring the blue planet that would soon belong to his empire. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a species that put up less resistance. The humans were even weaker than he had expected. "Sir," reported his weapons officer, "we're detecting some strange energy readings from the planet's surface." Velthak barely looked up from his victory plans. "Probably just their power systems failing under stress. Primitive species always have technical problems when they're afraid." The weapons officer looked uncertain. "Sir, the readings are quite strong. Maybe we should investigate." "Investigate what?" Velthak laughed. "Their power plants are probably overloading because their operators are too scared to work properly. Focus on our weapons, not their failures." The weapons officer returned to his station, but he kept monitoring the energy readings. They were getting stronger by the hour. Something was happening on Earth, but he couldn't figure out what it was. 17 hours until optimal firing position. The alien fleet spread out across space, confident and relaxed. They had no idea that in less than one day they would discover that Earth was not a primitive world waiting to be conquered. Earth was a trap, and they had walked right into it. The darkness of space around Earth suddenly filled with light. 50,000 alien ships appeared at once, their massive hulls blocking out the stars. Each ship was the size of a city, covered in weapons that could destroy planets. They had come from the far edge of the galaxy, where the Vextai Empire ruled over 17 conquered worlds. On the largest ship, Supreme Commander Velthak looked down at the small blue planet through his viewing screen. His 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Another easy victory was coming. The primitive humans would surrender quickly, just like all the others had done before them. "Begin the standard scan," Velthak ordered his officers. His voice was deep and cold, like grinding stone. "I want to know what pathetic weapons these creatures have." The scan results came back within minutes. Velthak's officers gathered around him, reading the data with amused expressions. One of them, a younger commander named Zixtar, laughed out loud. "Sir, they still use nuclear weapons," Zixtar said, shaking his head. "And their fastest ships can barely reach their own moon. This will be over before lunch." Velthak nodded slowly. 300 years of conquest had taught him that primitive species always followed the same pattern. First, they would panic. Then they would beg. Finally, they would surrender without a real fight. It was boring, but it was effective. Far below on Earth, the panic had indeed begun. Television screens around the world showed the massive alien fleet hanging in space like a dark cloud. News reporters spoke in frightened voices about humanity's doom. People ran through the streets, some crying, others praying, many just standing still and staring up at the sky. But deep underground, beneath the NORAD military base in Colorado, Admiral Dae-Ho Kim sat calmly at a metal desk. He was reading the same scan reports that the aliens had just completed. The difference was he was smiling. "They think our nuclear missiles are our best weapons," Dae-Ho said to the woman sitting across from him. Mi Young Park, the head of Earth's Strategic Intelligence Division, was also smiling. She had been waiting for this day for 20 years. "Should we feel insulted?" Mi Young asked. "They think we're still living in the year 2000. Dae-Ho chuckled. "Let them think it. The longer they believe we're primitive, the better this will go for us." Around them, the underground command center was busy but not panicked. Hundreds of officers worked at computer stations, their fingers moving quickly across keyboards. Large screens on the walls showed the alien fleet's position, but they also showed something else. Hidden defense systems all around Earth were quietly coming online. The aliens couldn't see them yet. Above ground, the world's leaders were giving speeches that sounded desperate and afraid. The President of the United States spoke about hoping for peaceful contact. The Prime Minister of Japan called for calm. The Secretary General of the United Nations begged the aliens to show mercy. It was all an act. Hye-Jin Choi, Director of the Global Defense Council, watched these speeches from her office in Geneva. She had helped write every word. The goal was to make humanity look weak and divided. So far, it was working perfectly. Her secure phone rang. It was Taemin Lee, the captain of Earth's most advanced warship, the EDS Aegis. His ship was currently hiding on the far side of the moon, invisible to alien sensors. "Ma'am, they're taking the bait," Taemin reported. "My ship appeared on their scanners for exactly 3 seconds before I pulled back. They think it was running away in fear." "Good work, Captain," Yejin said. "How do they look from up there?" "Arrogant," Taemin replied. "They're not even trying to hide their positions. They think this is going to be easy." Yejin smiled. "Then, they're in for quite a surprise." Back on the Vextai command ship, Velthak was preparing his traditional surrender demand. It was the same speech he had given to 17 other worlds. He had never needed to change a single word. "Open a channel to the planet," he ordered. "All frequencies. I want every human to hear this." The communication officer's claws clicked across his control panel. "Channel open, sir." Velthak stood up to his full height of 9 feet. His armor gleamed under the bridge lights, covered in medals from his many victories. He began to speak in the calm, confident tone that had terrified countless species. Primitive. Humans of the third planet. His voice boomed across every radio, television, and internet connection on Earth. I am Supreme Commander Velthak of the Vextai Empire. You are looking at the finest war fleet in the galaxy. 50,000 ships, each one capable of destroying your entire world. On Earth, people gathered around their screens to listen. Many were crying, some were holding their families close. Others were praying to their gods for salvation. In the underground command center, Dae-ho Kim was taking notes. Your species has exactly 72 hours to surrender, Velthak continued. Lay down all weapons, shut down all military installations. Prepare your leaders for transport to our ships. Do this and your people will live as slaves. Refuse and your planet will burn until nothing remains but ash and memories. The transmission ended. Across Earth, the panic grew louder. But in secret military bases around the world, something else was happening. Computers were receiving encrypted messages. Hidden weapon systems were running final checks. Soldiers, who had trained their entire lives for this moment, were putting on their armor. Velthak settled back into his command chair, satisfied. Begin standard invasion formation, he ordered. But take your time. Let them watch us approach. Fear makes the surrender so much sweeter. The massive alien fleet began to move toward Earth, but slowly. They wanted to give the humans time to think about their hopeless situation. It was psychological warfare, and it had worked on every previous target. What the aliens didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this day for 50 years. Every government on Earth was part of the plan. Every major corporation, every university, every military base had been secretly working toward one goal, making sure that when the aliens finally came, they would regret it. In a hidden facility beneath the Antarctic ice, Jin Woo-song was putting the finishing touches on Project Prometheus. The alien ships would be in range in 68 hours. That gave him just enough time to complete the final weapon calibrations. On the moon's far side, Commander Hyun Soo-oh was watching the alien fleet through telescopes that the invaders couldn't detect. What looked like simple mining equipment to alien scanners was actually the largest artillery system ever built. It had been disguised as a lunar mining operation for 30 years. Dr. Yoon-ji Nam was in her laboratory in Seoul, making final adjustments to the quantum weapons array that ran beneath the city. To alien sensors, it looked like a power grid. In reality, it was a weapon that could tear holes in space itself. So-Ra-Yoon was on Mars, where the mining colony was actually humanity's largest military production facility. For 20 years, ships and weapons had been built in the deep tunnels beneath the red planet's surface. The aliens had no idea that Mars was basically one giant hidden weapons factory. As the alien fleet moved closer to Earth, the news got worse and worse. Military experts on television said humanity had no chance. Scientists calculated that Earth's nuclear weapons could maybe destroy a few dozen alien ships before the rest wiped out all life on the planet. But in the secret command centers, the mood was different. Officers who had spent decades preparing for this moment were checking their equipment one final time. This wasn't going to be humanity's last stand. It was going to be the aliens' worst mistake. Velthak looked at his chronometer. 71 hours and 37 minutes remaining until the deadline. Soon he would add Earth to his collection of conquered worlds. After that, maybe he would finally get promoted to Grand Admiral. He had no way of knowing that in less than 3 days, his mighty fleet would be nothing but glowing debris floating in space. The humans were about to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. The surviving alien ships tried desperately to escape the slaughter. What remained of the once mighty Vextai fleet was scattered across the solar system, running in every direction they could think of. But wherever they went, they found more humans waiting for them. Supreme Commander Velthak was barely alive in the emergency pod that had ejected from his destroyed flagship. Through the small window, he could see his fleet burning all around him. Ships that had conquered 17 worlds were now nothing but glowing debris floating in space. This is impossible, he whispered to himself. How did primitive humans build weapons like this? His communications officer, one of the few other survivors in the pod, was trying to contact the remaining ships. "Sir, I'm receiving reports from all sectors. The humans have weapons everywhere. Our ships can't escape." Velthak's 4 eyes focused on the blue planet below. Earth looked so peaceful and innocent, but he now knew the truth. This world was not a target to be conquered. It was a predator that had been waiting patiently for prey to come within striking distance. Commander Dong-Hyun Cha had been hiding his submarine fleet inside Jupiter's radiation belt for 10 years. The massive planet's radiation made it impossible for alien sensors to detect anything hidden in the swirling gases. But now it was time to reveal humanity's most carefully kept secret. "All ghost ships, this is Deep 6, Dong-Hyun announced over the secure channel. "Time to surface. Begin Phantom. Protocol." 50 human ships emerged from Jupiter's clouds like ancient sea monsters rising from the depths. These vessels had been designed specifically for stealth operations. They could move through space without being detected, appear and disappear at will, and strike targets from impossible distances. A group of alien ships was trying to escape toward the outer solar system when they suddenly found themselves surrounded by the Ghost Fleet. The human ships had appeared from nowhere, like magic. "Alien vessels, this is Commander Dong-Hyun Cha." His voice echoed across space. "You are attempting to leave without permission. Please return to Earth for processing." The alien commander, a young officer named Krixtal, was in charge of what remained of his battle group. 12 ships out of his original 50 were still functional, and he was determined to get them home with news of this disaster. "Human vessel," Krixtal replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "We will not surrender. Stand aside or be destroyed." Dong-Hyun's laugh came through the radio like cold wind. "I'm sorry, but you seem to be confused about who has the power here. You see, you're not leaving our solar system until we say you can leave." The alien ships opened fire, but their weapons passed right through the human vessels. The ghost ships were using technology that made them partially exist in normal space, while partially existing somewhere else entirely. They could shoot out, but weapons couldn't shoot in. "That's not very polite," Dong-Hyun said calmly. "I think you need some time to reconsider your attitude." The human ships fired back, but not to destroy. Instead, they used precision strikes to disable the alien vessel's engines and weapon systems. Within minutes, Krixtal's battle group was floating helplessly in space, completely unable to move or fight. "As I was saying," Dong-Hyun continued, "you'll be returning to Earth now. Please remain calm while we tow you back." Similar scenes were playing out all across the solar system. Every escape route the aliens tried to use was blocked by human forces that shouldn't have existed. The asteroid belt was revealed to be one massive weapons platform. The outer planets had hidden bases that came online as the battle progressed. Director Sung-Woo Park was coordinating the entire operation from his quantum communication center beneath the Pacific Ocean. His network allowed instant contact between all human forces, no matter how far apart they were in the solar system. Sector 7 reports 12 alien ships captured intact, came a report from the Mars fleet. Sector 15 has destroyed 40 ships attempting to break through the Jupiter barrier. Sector 23 is mopping up stragglers near Saturn. Sung-Woo marked the updates on his tactical display. The battle was going exactly according to plan. Every alien ship was being tracked, and every escape attempt was being countered. The humans weren't just winning. They were demonstrating complete control over their own solar system. "Sir," reported his assistant Namsu, "we're receiving surrender signals from 18 alien vessels. They're requesting permission to land on Earth." "Granted," Sung-Woo replied, "but tell them they'll be landing in specially prepared facilities. We have some questions for them." Those specially prepared facilities had been built years ago by Yewon Lee's team. She was a specialist in alien technology capture and reverse engineering, and she had been waiting for this opportunity her entire career. "Finally," Yewon said as she watched the first alien ships being escorted down to Earth's surface, "we get to see how their technology actually works." Her hidden laboratories had been built to handle exactly this situation. Every alien ship that surrendered would be completely analyzed. Every weapon, every computer system, every piece of equipment would be studied, and understood. The humans were not just defeating the invasion, they were stealing everything useful from the invaders. But the biggest shock for the aliens was still to come. On the edge of the solar system, a small group of alien ships thought they had found a way to escape. They were moving toward the hyperspace jump point that would allow them to return home with news of the disaster. They never made it. What looked like empty space suddenly filled with human ships. Not just a few ships, but hundreds of them. They had been waiting in perfect silence at every possible escape route, invisible to alien sensors, patient as hunters. "This is Captain Jae-hyun Park of the Earth Defense Force," came a calm voice over the radio. "You are attempting to leave human space without permission. Please prepare to be boarded." The alien commander, Vex Null, stared at his screens in disbelief. "Where did you come from? Our sensors showed nothing but empty space." "Your sensors are not as advanced as you think," Captain Park replied. "We've been watching your technology for a long time. We know exactly how it works and exactly how to hide from it." Vexnall realized with growing horror that the humans had been studying alien technology for years before this invasion. They had somehow obtained examples of Vextai equipment and learned how to counter it. This entire battle had been planned in advance, down to the smallest detail. "How long have you been watching us?" Vexnall asked. "Long enough," Park answered. "Now, are you going to surrender peacefully, or do we need to disable your ships?" Back on Earth, Admiral Dae-ho Kim was receiving reports from every sector of the solar system. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. Hundreds of alien prisoners needed to be processed. Thousands of pieces of alien technology needed to be analyzed. Most importantly, the galaxy needed to understand that humanity was no longer hiding. "Sir," reported his aide, Lieutenant Yunsu, "we have preliminary casualty reports." Dae-ho looked up from his tactical displays. "How many did we lose?" "0 human casualties, sir," Yunsu replied with a smile. "Not a single human life was lost. Total alien casualties are estimated at 98.7% of their invasion force." Dae-ho nodded slowly. 50 years of preparation had paid off perfectly. The humans had achieved complete victory without losing a single person. It was the most one-sided battle in galactic history. In her laboratory in Seoul, Dr. Yoon-ji Nam was already analyzing the first pieces of alien technology brought to her by recovery teams. The quantum weapons network that had been disguised as the city's power grid was now being reconfigured to help process alien data systems. "Their computers are surprisingly primitive," she announced to her team. "I think we're at least 100 years ahead of them in quantum processing. No wonder they couldn't detect our hidden systems." Young-ho, her assistant, looked up from an alien weapon he was examining. "Dr. Nam, this energy rifle is less powerful than our basic training weapons. How did these aliens conquer 17 worlds?" "They probably fought species that were actually primitive," Yoonji replied. "They've never encountered anyone who was prepared for them before." The truth was becoming clear. The Vextai Empire had grown powerful by attacking worlds that were truly defenseless. They had never faced an enemy that had been watching, learning, and preparing. Earth had not just defended itself. It had revealed that the supposedly mighty Vextai Empire was actually quite weak compared to what humanity could build. As the last alien ships were captured or destroyed, Supreme Commander Velthak was brought aboard a human medical ship for treatment. His injuries were being healed by doctors who were also interrogating him about Vextai military capabilities. "Your empire," said Dr. Minjun Song, the human doctor treating Velthak's wounds, "controls how many star systems?" 17, Velthak replied weakly. We were the most powerful force in the galaxy." Dr. Song smiled. "Were. That's the important word there. Because after today, I think the galaxy is going to have a very different understanding of who the most powerful force actually is." Through the medical bay window, Velthak could see Earth hanging in space, the planet that was supposed to be. His next conquest was now clearly the center of the most advanced military force he had ever encountered. The 72 hours were almost up. Supreme Commander Velthak stood on his command deck, watching Earth grow larger on his viewing screen. His fleet had reached the perfect position for planetary bombardment. 50,000 warships hung in space like dark metal clouds, their weapons pointed at the blue planet below. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we are receiving a response from the human leaders." Velthak smiled. Finally, the surrender message he had been waiting for. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. But, instead of frightened human, leaders begging for mercy, the screen showed a single person. A woman in a military uniform sat calmly at a simple desk. Her name appeared at the bottom of the screen. Communications Officer Ha-Young Kim. "Greetings, Supreme Commander Velthak," Ha-Young said in a steady voice. "I am speaking on behalf of all humanity. We have considered your offer carefully." Velthak leaned forward in his chair. This human didn't look afraid. That was unusual but not unheard of. Some species tried to act brave right until the end. "We appreciate you giving us 72 hours to think about your terms," Ha-Young continued. "It was very generous of you. However, I'm afraid we must decline your kind offer of slavery." Velthak's 4 eyes narrowed. "Then you choose death?" he growled. Ha-Young tilted her head slightly. "Actually, Commander, I think you're confused about who's choosing death today." She paused, then spoke, 2 words that would echo across the galaxy for centuries to come. "You picked the wrong species." The transmission ended. Velthak stared at the blank screen for a moment, then began to laugh. "Did you hear that? They think they can fight us, begin the bombardment, destroy every major city on that planet." His weapons officer's claws moved across the control panel. "Charging main weapons, sir. All ships report ready to fire." "On my mark," Velthak said, raising his hand. 3, 2, 1. Deep beneath NORAD, Admiral Daeho Kim was watching the same countdown on his screens, but he was counting down to something very different. "Operation Thunderstrike is go," he announced calmly into his microphone. "All stations, commence firing." What happened next would be remembered as the shortest space battle in galactic history. The first sign that something was wrong came from the asteroid belt. What the aliens thought were floating rocks suddenly lit up like stars. Thousands of hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves, firing beams of pure energy that crossed millions of miles in seconds. Commander Jihai Ryu had been waiting inside her hollowed-out asteroid for 20 years for this moment. "Target acquired," she announced as her weapons locked onto an alien battleship. "Firing!" The quantum beam that erupted from her hidden platform was invisible until it struck its target. The alien ship, which had been preparing to bombard Earth, simply vanished. 1 second it was there. The next second it was scattered atoms floating in space. All across the asteroid belt. Hundreds of similar weapons fired at once. In the first 10 seconds of the battle, 3,000 alien ships were destroyed. The aliens didn't even have time to understand what was happening. On the lunar surface, Commander Hyun-soo activated weapons that had been disguised as mining equipment for 30 years. "All drilling platforms commence deep extraction," he announced using the code phrase for destroy everything in sight. The mining drills that had been boring into lunar rock for decades suddenly swiveled toward space. But instead of drills, they extended massive cannon barrels. Instead of mining ore, they fired projectiles that could punch through the armor of any ship in the galaxy. "Direct hit on target Cluster 7, reported Lieutenant Wu Jin Kang from his position in what looked like a simple moon buggy. 12 alien ships destroyed. "Excellent shooting, Lieutenant," Hyun-soo replied. "Continue extraction operations." On Earth, the real weapons were finally revealing themselves. In Seoul, Dr. Eunji Nam's quantum weapon network came online. The entire city became a single massive cannon, firing a beam of pure energy straight up into space. The beam was 10 miles wide and moved at the speed of light. Every alien ship caught in its path simply ceased to exist. The energy was so precisely controlled that people walking on the streets of Seoul didn't even feel warm air. But 200 alien warships vanished in an instant. Similar weapons activated all around Earth. London became a giant laser cannon. Tokyo fired antimatter missiles. New York launched swarms of self-guided smart bombs. Every major city on Earth revealed itself to be a hidden weapons platform. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. In the Antarctic, Jin Woo Song activated Project Prometheus. The ice above his underground facility cracked open like an eggshell, revealing weapons the size of skyscrapers. These quantum cannons had been built in complete secrecy for 20 years, powered by reactors that could supply energy to entire continents. Prometheus online, Jin Woo announced. Firing solution calculated. All targets acquired. The blast that emerged from Antarctica was visible from Mars. It was a beam of pure destruction that reached across space and struck the alien command ship directly. Velthak's flagship, which had been preparing to destroy Earth, was cut in half, like paper. Velthak himself was thrown across his command deck as his ship broke apart around him. Emergency lights flashed red as atmosphere rushed out through massive holes in the hull. His weapons officer was screaming something about impossible energy readings. "How are they doing this?" Velthak shouted over the noise of his dying ship. The scan showed primitive weapons, but there was no time for answers. Captain Minho Jian's ship, the Prometheus was decloaking directly in front of the alien fleet. The ship was massive, larger than any alien vessel, covered in weapons that the invaders had never seen before. "This is Captain Minho Jian of the Earth Defense Ship Prometheus came the calm voice over all communication channels. "You are trespassing in human territory. You have 10 seconds to surrender before we demonstrate why that was a mistake." The Prometheus had been hidden behind Earth's moon for 5 years, waiting for this moment. Its weapons were based on technology that wouldn't be discovered by most galactic civilizations for another 1,000 years. The ship was essentially a mobile planet killer disguised as empty space. "Impossible," Velthak whispered as his damaged ship's sensors finally detected the Earth ship. "No primitive species could build something like that." "Sir," his surviving weapons officer shouted, "we're detecting energy signatures unlike anything in our database. These humans, they're not primitive at all." Lieutenant Wu Jin Kang was leading a squadron of 500 human fighters that had been disguised as orbital debris for months. They had been floating in space, powered down and invisible, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "All fighters, this is Phoenix Leader," Wu Jin announced as his ship's engines came online. "Time to show these visitors how we welcome uninvited guests." The human fighters moved like nothing the aliens had ever seen. They were small and fast, darting between the massive alien ships like angry insects. But these insects had stingers that could destroy battleships. In the command center beneath NORAD, Tactical Coordinator Yejin Huang was orchestrating the battle with mathematical precision. Her computers had been calculating this engagement for years, running millions of simulations to find the perfect strategy. "Sector 7 is clear," she announced. "Redirecting fire to Sector 12. All lunar platforms, adjust targeting to grid reference 447. The battle that the aliens had expected to win in minutes was being lost in seconds. Their ships were exploding faster than their crews could count. Weapons they had never encountered were tearing through their fleet like it was made of paper. On Mars, Sora Yun finally revealed the colony's biggest secret. The red planet cracked open like a giant egg, and 2,000 human warships emerged from underground hangar bays. Each ship was equipped with weapons that had been tested in secret for decades. "Mars fleet to Earth command," Sora announced. 2,000 ships launching as planned, beginning mop-up operations on fleeing alien vessels. "Acknowledged, Mars fleet," came Admiral Dae-ho Kim's reply. "Leave a few alive. We need witnesses to tell the galaxy what happened here." The aliens tried to retreat, but they quickly discovered that humanity had anticipated that too. The escape routes were blocked by more hidden weapons platforms. The hyperspace jump points were covered by human ships that had been waiting in position for years. Supreme Commander Velthak, bleeding and burned in the wreckage of his command ship, finally understood the truth. Earth had never been primitive. The humans had been watching the galaxy, learning, preparing. They had built weapons that surpassed anything the Vextai Empire possessed. They had turned their entire solar system into a trap. And the trap had worked perfectly. In 6 minutes of actual combat, The largest invasion fleet in galactic history was reduced to burning wreckage. Of 50,000 alien ships, fewer than 100 survived. And those survivors would carry news of humanity's power to the far corners of the galaxy. The age of human expansion was about to begin. 3 days after the battle, news of humanity's victory was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. The few surviving Vextai ships that had managed to escape carried impossible stories back to their home worlds. Stories that no one wanted to believe. An entire invasion fleet destroyed in minutes. Weapons that could tear holes in space itself. A primitive species that had actually been more advanced than their would-be conquerors. It sounded like fiction, but the evidence was undeniable. On the Vextai homeworld of Kethmore, Emperor Zultak received the reports with growing disbelief. His 4 hands shook as he read the casualty numbers. 50,000 ships reduced to fewer than 100 survivors. The greatest military force in known space had been annihilated by what they thought was a primitive world. This cannot be accurate, Zultak declared to his Council of War. No species develops that quickly. Our last intelligence reports showed them using crude chemical rockets. General Nixvar, commander of the Vextai home fleet, spoke carefully. My lord, the survivors all tell the same story. The humans were never primitive. They were preparing, watching us, learning about us. The entire planet was a trap. Zultak's rage filled the throne room. Then our intelligence was completely wrong. How could we not know about weapons that powerful? But even as the Emperor raged, reports were coming in from across Vextai space. 17 conquered worlds were rising in rebellion. The news of the Great Fleet's destruction had reached them, and they no longer feared their oppressors. On Earth, humanity was preparing to step onto the galactic stage as the dominant power. Ambassador Kyung-min Shin stood before the United Nations General Assembly, but this time he was not speaking only to Earth's leaders. His words were being broadcast to every known civilization in the galaxy. People of Earth and peoples of the galaxy, Kyung-min began, 3 days ago, the Vextai Empire made a terrible mistake. They believed that humanity was weak. They believed that Earth was defenseless. They believed that they could conquer us as easily as they had conquered 17 other worlds. He paused, looking directly into the camera that was sending his message across space. They were wrong about everything. On viewing screens throughout the galaxy, representatives of dozens of species watched as Kyung-min continued his speech. Many of these civilizations had lived in fear of the Vextai Empire for centuries. Now they were seeing their oppressors defeated by a species they had never heard of. The Vextai Empire sent 50,000 ships to destroy our world, Kyung-min said calmly. We destroyed 98.7% of their fleet in 6 minutes and 43 seconds. We did this without losing a single human life. Gasps could be heard from alien diplomats watching the broadcast. The mathematical precision of humanity's victory was almost as frightening as the victory itself. But we are not conquerors, Kyung-min continued. We are defenders. For 50 years we have watched the Vextai Empire grow stronger by attacking the defenseless. We prepared for the day when they would come for us. That day has passed. On the planet Zirion, in the outer spiral, President Velnara of the Zirion Republic watched the human ambassador with hope she had not felt in decades. Her world had been on the Vextai target list for years, living in constant fear of invasion. Could it be true? She whispered to her aide. Could the Empire really be defeated? Her aide, young Consul Thexman, was reading intelligence reports as they came in. Ma'am, our deep space sensors confirm it. The Vextai home fleet is in full retreat. Their border worlds are declaring independence. The Empire is collapsing. President Velnara felt tears in her eyes. After 300 years of terror, the Vextai Empire was finally falling. And it had been brought down by a species that no one had ever considered a threat. Back on Earth, Commander Boram Kim was preparing humanity's first interstellar expedition. The EDS New Horizon was the most advanced ship in the human fleet, equipped with technology that had been reverse-engineered from captured alien vessels and improved upon by human scientists. All systems check complete, Admiral, Boram reported to Dae-ho Kim. We're ready for our first journey beyond the solar system. Your orders are simple, Commander, Deho replied. Make contact with the former Vextai colonies. Let them know that Earth is willing to help them maintain their independence. But remember, we're not there to conquer. We're there to protect. Boram nodded. Understood, sir. When do we launch? Immediately, Deho said. The galaxy needs to see that humanity keeps its promises. As the New Horizon departed Earth, its mission was being watched by intelligence agencies throughout known space. Director In-Young Seo had spent the past 3 days coordinating with alien resistance movements that had been hiding for centuries. We're receiving messages from 47 different worlds, In-Young reported to the Global Defense Council. They all want to know if our offer of protection is real. Hee-Jin Choi, director of the council, smiled. Tell them it's real, but also tell them that freedom isn't free. If they want our protection, they need to be willing to defend themselves too. The transformation of galactic politics was happening faster than anyone had expected. The Vextai Empire, which had seemed unstoppable just days before, was fragmenting as conquered worlds declared independence. And at the center of this revolution was humanity, the species that had turned from apparent prey into the galaxy's apex predator overnight. Director Junho Yoon was already establishing humanity's first interstellar colonies. Ships loaded with human settlers were departing for strategic locations throughout the galaxy. These weren't invasion forces, they were the foundation of a new kind of galactic civilization. Our first colony ship launches for the Kepler 442 system tomorrow, Junho announced at the daily briefing. The second and third ships will follow next week. By the end of the year, we'll have human settlements in 12 different star systems. Admiral Deho Kim looked at the star charts showing humanity's planned expansion. Remember, we're not building an empire. We're building a defensive network. Every colony needs to be capable of defending itself and helping defend its neighbors. Understood, sir, Junho replied. Each colony will include full manufacturing capabilities and hidden defensive systems. If anyone tries to attack them, they'll get the same surprise the Vextai got. On the former Vextai world of Tevlax, the local population was celebrating their first day of freedom in 200 years. The Vextai garrison had fled when news of the Great Fleet's destruction reached them. Now the planet was free, and human ships were on their way to help ensure it stayed that way. Governor Meldira, who had been a resistance leader just days before, stood before her people with tears of joy streaming down her face. My people, she announced, the Dark Age is over. The humans have shown us that the Vextai are not invincible. We are free, and we will remain free. The cheers that rose from the crowd could be heard for miles. Similar celebrations were happening on worlds throughout former Vextai space. The empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was crumbling, and in its place a new order was emerging. But not everyone was celebrating. On the Vextai homeworld, Emperor Zultak was meeting with his few remaining loyal generals. The empire was falling apart, but he was not ready to surrender. We still have forces, Zultak insisted. Fortified worlds, defensive fleets, loyal systems. We can rebuild. General Nixvar shook his head sadly. My lord, 17 worlds have already declared independence. Our remaining fleet commanders are deserting. And worst of all, the humans are offering protection to anyone who rebels against us. Then we attack Earth directly, Zultak snarled. We take everything we have left and destroy their homeworld before they can spread further. The silence in the throne room was deafening. Finally, Admiral Kextall spoke up. My lord, he said carefully, they destroyed our greatest fleet in 6 minutes. What makes you think our remaining forces would fare any better? Zultak's rage was building, but deep down, he knew the truth. The Vextai Empire was finished. Humanity had not just defeated them. Humanity had exposed them as bullies who could only win against the defenseless. On Earth, Supreme Commander Velthak was recovering in a human medical facility. His wounds had been healed by technology more advanced than anything in Vextai space, but his spirit had been broken by the knowledge of how completely he had been outmaneuvered. Dr. Minjun Song sat beside his bed, conducting what was officially A medical interview, but was actually an intelligence debriefing. Your empire, Dr. Song said gently, built its power by attacking worlds that couldn't fight back. What will you do now that you've encountered a species that can? Velthak stared at the ceiling. I don't know, he whispered. Everything I believed about galactic power was wrong. You humans, you're not just more advanced than us. You're more clever. You let us think we were the hunters when, all along, you were the predators. Dr. Song nodded. The galaxy is going to change now. The question is whether your people want to be part of that change, or if they want to keep fighting a war they can't win. 3 months later, the transformation was complete. The Vextai Empire had officially dissolved. Emperor Zultak had been captured attempting to flee to a distant galaxy. The 17 former colony worlds had formed a defensive alliance with Earth at its center.